What's happening, Stokastic baseball fans? Terry McBride here. Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show for Game 5, November 3rd. Didn't remember it today. November 3rd, Thursday. My last show of the baseball season. It's going to be a pleasure to take you guys through this one. And then I am heading out on vacation, taking my niece down to Disney World. Should be a fun time. But I will not be here for games 6 and 7. We'll have somebody else, I'm sure, fill the role. But we've got one more day together, and we'll take a look through this game, take a look at both pitchers, the hitters, and we'll build a couple lineups as usual. We are brought to you today once again by BetMGM. They've got a risk-free first bet of up to $1,000 going over at the site. Plus, if you sign up through the link that'll be in the description below this video today, you will be entitled to 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. So you get 2 months of platinum, you get $1,000 risk-free bet. If you got a grand sitting around, drop it in the BetMGM, roll it up, double it up. If you've only got $20 to put in there, put that in. You still get the risk-free $20 bet. So up to $1,000 risk-free from BetMGM plus 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Pretty solid deal. Check out the link down below in the description. With that, guys, let's hop over to the old baseball thing here. Hold on one second. Not sure what went haywire there. Let me redo our little share here. Oh, that's weird. It's not. Huh. Okay. It's back. Hopefully you guys can. Let's see. There we go. I think you guys can see this. Hopefully you guys can see this. If it doesn't appear in the video, I guess I'll re-record this. So let's go through everything. We'll jump into the baseball slate here. Starting off, pitching matchup, obviously favoring the Astros today. I know we talked about it yesterday. They kind of dominant performance, second no-hitter in Major League Baseball history in the World Series. It was combined between the 6 innings out of Christian Javier and then their excellent bullpen, but kind of a shocker there to see the Phils get no hit. Obviously, the Astros got to Nola, got a little bit going, and put up a nice W to steal one in Philly. So Phils kind of have their back against the wall in this one, and they're responding by starting Noah Syndergaard. It's going to be that version of the game that we talked about where he's going to probably get one time through this lineup, and then they're going to try and piece it together with the pen at the end of it. But they've got no Ranger Suarez in the pen now, so it's going to be an ugly one, I think, for the Phils pitching staff. Not to say that Syndergaard can't go out and throw and pitch a good, first few innings and they can get a good game out of the pen, but I feel like the Phils might have to win this one with their bats. So we'll see what happens there. But the Astros couldn't ask for better than to be tied in this situation and to have Justin Verlander on the hill, going back, try and grab this one in Philly and go back to Houston with the lead. That would be a pretty good situation for them. Verlander comes in 27.8% strikeout rate this season, a 3.23 xFIP, a 1.75 ERA, just microscopic numbers, 34.8% hard hit rate, a 1.80% home run rate. There's nothing not to like about Justin Verlander, one of, if not the best pitcher in baseball, likely Cy Young Award winner. He's going to be owned 66% on the DK slate at 11,600. We saw yesterday with all the challenges with putting a lineup together when we had those pitcher salaries in there, based on the increased salaries on some of these hitters, based on the total lack of a $4,000 tier or even a $5,000 tier hitter in the starting lineups here. So there's different ways to approach that. You can go into the bullpens and get cute with things. I don't really like to guess. I just prefer going to hitter builds. But that is a prohibitive price tag and a ton of ownership on that player in the combined between the captain and the util spot. So something to consider when rostering Verlander. But if you're looking for somebody who is a quote unquote lock for a strong fantasy score, you don't really have to look much further than Justin Verlander. He is the most likely guy with a bullet to be the highest scorer on this slate. On the other side of this one, Noah Syndergaard, 134 and 2/3 this year, 16.8% strikeout rate, only 5.5% walk. So he doesn't get himself in a ton of trouble, but there's just a lot of contact available. 16.8% strikeouts. He's not sitting anybody down by the strikeout. That leads to the inflated whip at 1.25. More guys on base via base hits, via some batting average on balls in play. He's not bad as far as keeping the ball in the yard and limiting hard contact. 34% hard hit rate, a 2.48% home run rate, 7.8% barrels. So it's not like Syndergaard's bad by any means, but we're just not going to get a lot of depth. We're not going to get a lot of strikeouts most likely out of him. So he's 10-6 on the DK board. I don't know that he's worth it. I don't know that he's worth the salary spend. Only 9% ownership. You might get enough out of him, but I consider him more comparable to like a bat, to like one of the premium hitters maybe. And he's priced a little bit more than those guys. Like Harper's at 96 today, so he's priced up beyond that. He's 1,000 more than a Bryce Harper, and I consider them somewhat equal in terms of what they could potentially do projection wise. So don't love the spot for the Syndergaard shares there. But he is at least on the table. And again, you could go to the Phillies bullpen for a pitcher. I didn't think to grab the list of bullpen arms, but you've certainly got like Sir Anthony Dominguez and guys like that out there. So there are a few different ways that you could try and cheat or get cute and game the system here on the Phillies pitchers, but I don't love that idea. You don't know for sure which ones it's going to be. You don't get a lot of depth that way either. You're just looking to pick off a few points for a cheap price at that point. So let me take a sip here. Excuse me. So taking a look at the bats, we are looking at the Aledmys Diaz version of this Astros lineup again. We've got Martin Maldonado back in. We did see Christian Vasquez in the lineup yesterday. So we'll see the low on Maldonado back in the lineup here, but he's 6,400. It's not like they're doing us a lot of favors on the pricing. A lot of similar stuff here. The Astros ownership goes back up, of course, facing Noah Syndergaard. So they'll be a little bit more popular. We saw it the other way around yesterday where they were unpopular because they were facing Aaron Nola, and we all saw how that went. I like the idea of getting to Astros bats here again. We don't have an ownership projection in on Diaz. It looks like we probably have Mancini projected there, but keep an eye out on that. It could be one, could be the other. Otherwise, exactly the same lineup. Altuve, Jeremy Pena is excellent. Jordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker, the two big lefties. Alex Bregman made a little bit of noise last night. So definitely guys that you want to get to. You want to rotate through the various multiplier spots. Julie Gurriel and Chas McCormick from the bottom of the lineup. Definitely guys we talk about quite a bit on these shows and throughout the year. So definitely bats that I want to keep in rotating through these lineups. And quite frankly, you just need them based on what the prices are. So these guys will pop up quite a bit as we go into the lineup builds. On the other side of things, the Phils getting a little bit less attention in terms of the ownership. Bryce Harper only 13.5, Schwarber 14.5. Those are key hitters for this Phillies lineup. If they're going to do any damage today against Justin Verlander, those guys are most likely going to be involved. So if I'm going to Phillies bats, I think that's my starting point. I want to get to those hitters at extremely low ownership. I think that makes a ton of sense. You get Alec Bohm by the same token, fairly low owns down there. A couple guys in the 20s because they're cheap. Getting Rhys Hoskins at 8,000, getting JT Realmuto for only 7,600. That's relatively cheap for those players, not necessarily flat cheap overall, but cheap for them. So they're getting a little bit more attention. The bottom of the lineup that we always talk about with the double-digit counting stats, double-digit home runs, double-digit steals from Stott Segura and Brandon Marsh. That's all intact, but the pricing's a little bit higher. They're owned in the 20s, the high teens, but 6,200, 7,000, 6,000. It's not Brandon Marsh for 4,500 anymore, unfortunately. So dealing with a little bit of an uptick in price. But I think they're certainly worth going to again here. And it's a spot that I want to try and get to. It's intimidating to throw bats at Justin Verlander, but it's a one-game slate, and it kind of makes sense too based on where they're owned, based on the idea of, hey, even Verlander is going to have his clunky starts from time to time. So we definitely want to go where the public is not, where the ownership is not. And that's on the key hitters from the Philly side of things here. On the FanDuel slate, everybody's pretty much owned. There's no real exceptions. Everybody's in the 20s and the 30s, much higher on the Astros side of things, of course. Nobody's all that expensive. It's very easy to put these bats together. You don't have the pitching to worry about. So we'll kind of talk that through as we look at the lineup builds on the other tab here. Let's talk real quick one more time about the BetMGM promo. If you guys go over to BetMGM, you create an account, new account only. It's a risk-free first bet up to $1,000. Pretty solid action over there. And you get along with that, if you use the link that's below in the description, you get 2 free months of Stokastic Plus as well. And that's for the platinum plan. So that's the all-inclusive plan over at Stokastic. All the projections, the ownership, all the different sports. It's pretty solid little add-on here. And if you got $200, risk-free up to $200. If you got $1,000, it's risk-free up to $1,000, guys. So whatever you've got laying around that you can afford to put in here, don't go beyond your means. Nobody's telling you to do that. But if you got a couple bucks sitting around burning a hole in your pocket, throw it into BetMGM. Take advantage of that risk-free first bet. It's pretty worthwhile. Let's go to the lineup builder. I made sure I actually updated all the tabs correctly today, except for the lineups. Did not actually put the lineups in. Spoke too soon. Let's grab these real quick. Phils and the pitchers. All right. So we'll do a FanDuel one to start yet again. I think the one we built yesterday got into the money. Didn't win it. Didn't win, but it was a casher, so that was nice to see. We, as usual, will look for a lowish owned MVP from these batters. I think we used Bregman yesterday. I think we will go to one of the Phillies on this one, and we'll take a shot at Mr. Verlander here. Kyle Schwarber for 85 sounds pretty good for an MVP. We could get cute and wrap around Marsh in the star spot, and that would be like completely unowned, 1% ownership. Might be getting a little too cute to do that. Yeah, I don't love it, and we don't need to chase the correlation that hard. Maybe we can correlate like Marsh and Stott or something down toward the bottom if we need some salary savings. But let's not worry about that just yet. Let's look around for some other bats. Let's grab an Astro. 75. 75 sounds pretty good for Altuve. Star spot, grab a little leadoff man in a star spot here, going up against the pitcher who allows a ton of contact to start the game, and then the bullpen. Kind of like that idea. He's 11% owned, though. I didn't actually look at the ownership there. Let's forgo that. Actually, I don't love the 11%. We go to a cheaper Pena, only 8% owned in the star spot. We could drop to Bregman. Yeah, Bregman for 7,000. I think that's my star here. We get $7,000 Alex Bregman. It's just a misprice. 7,500 Altuve is also by the same token, but 8.4% owned, so a little bit better on the ownership than where Altuve's 11+% was there. 3 spots to go, 6,500 per, sitting pretty on the salary there. So why don't we do that? We can grab Pena here. At least 65 still. It gives us a little correlated bat with Bregman. And then we could get into Jordan in the util spot is only 10% owned, but he's $9,000, so that's going to be prohibitive. We could drop down to Julie Gurriel. We could go back over to the Phillies and take some of the lower owned bats, which I think is what I'm going to do here because I do want to build with some fills here. It's 65 each. That gives us, we got access to Castellanos and everybody below him. We could put Rhys Hoskins or JT Realmuto in here. Let's go with a little Rhys Hoskins. And now we get 6,000, so we can go anybody from this group from Bohm down. So we can do, we would have Schwarber, Hoskins. Let's take our Brandon Marsh for the little wraparound correlation there. He's 15% owned, though, in the util spot. The other guys here in the teens. If we had gone Bohm, it would be a little bit better on our ownership product. This one's 1 in 22,000. If we go with Bohm instead of Marsh, we lose the minor correlation. We jump up to 1 in 27,000. Spend all our salary. That's not terrible. I don't love it. And it's probably partly driven by these guys and their high ownership. But, there's only so many different directions to go with some of these combinations. So I think that one played a little bit for FanDuel. We'll jump over to the more interesting DK board now. We'll do a pitcher build to start. We'll use Verlander and just see what we can do. More likely that I feel like we're going to have to just consider using him in the util spots more. And if we look, we can see only 5.6. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. It's 41% of his. That would have been stunning if he was only 5% owned in the captain spot. 41% of his ownership is in the captain spot. 25% in the util. Normally, I would expect to see more weight in the captain and less in the util than even this. But it's just he's so expensive when you put him in that spot, so it just makes it difficult. 6,500 to go. We're already in the territory of like we can use Stott, we can use Marsh, we can maybe get Segura in there. Just making that decision immediately makes it difficult to build a lineup. So let's see if what we can do by grabbing the least expensive premium bat, which would be Rhys Hoskins here, unless you want to count Castellanos. But I want like a top 5 hitter. So let's say it's Rhys Hoskins for 8. So if you do even that, now you're at 61. So There are not a lot of angles to go. Let's see if we can 57. Nope, we're already too far down below our average. We can't do that. So you could go like, nope, can't do that because Segura is too expensive. 62. I'm going to say you flat out cannot get this lineup done if these are the starters. You got some guys down the bottom here. If it's Mancini, you get a 54. If it's Hensley, you get 52. So you get a little relief there. Maldo's in there from yesterday. But yeah, not easy to do with a top 5 bat in that lineup. So let's say if we went instead of Hoskins, we go to Nick Castellanos, or let's say we'll consider Yuli Gurriel one of the premium bats. So with Yuli as our premium bat, quote unquote, Bryson Stott and Brandon Marsh already in the lineup. We've got 66, so we can just get there with this one, I think. Right, 66. That would give us no Segura, none of the Phillies. So we could basically only use Maldo. There's our premium Verlander lineup. And it does not look that premium with Verlander in the captain role. No ownership on Aledmys Diaz. Let's call him. What do we call him? Let's call him 20%. Call him idiot. Do that, and the ownership column, we'll call them 20%, 1 in 16,000. So this lineup is not unique. This lineup spends all the salary except for 200 in a weird combination of players. You do have Verlander in the captain spot, but that's about it. I do not like this lineup. I would probably not be looking to enter that one. Let's see what we can do with Verlander in the util role. A little bit more breathing room on a lineup like this, but still not great. 7,600 to spend per spot. We still need to buy a captain, so that'll come down when we do that. Let's go with I don't want to do Yuli. Let's see if we can do like a Bregman, big captain, 3%. All right, let's try that. That immediately drops us to 63. So we're again just going right back to these guys. Right? It would be this. It would be this, and it would be this. There's your Verlander in lineup with Bregman as your captain. So you're not even getting an Alvarez, you're not getting an Altuve, you're not getting a Schwarber or a Harper or anybody like that in your captain role. I think Alex Bregman is a fantastic baseball player. It's not to take anything away from him necessarily, but it's just talking about, the overall quality, projection, upside, et cetera, et cetera. This lineup falls short, in my opinion. So I don't love that one. We need to pop a little ownership back in here. We'll see a much nicer uniqueness, 1 in 158,000. So I would prefer to play this lineup over the Verlander captain lineup just based on that uniqueness number, and it projects out similarly. But I still don't think this is an overly good lineup. Could it win a tournament? Absolutely. It's baseball. Anything can happen. But this is not a prime way to build that lineup. Let's take a look. Same guy in the captain role, but we won't use a pitcher now. So we'll have 73 to spend. So I could do that. We could go, let's say we want to get affordable Yuli in there, and we'll go with Kyle Tucker. That leaves us still 68. So we can even grab, can we do that? 63, 66. So you can do something like that. 1 in 64,000, all hitters. Pretty evenly distributed. Well, no, a little bit of an Astros lean to it, which I think is fine. And you're grabbing not the most popular extreme Astros bats, but we've got Kyle Tucker in there. We've got Bregman in the captain spot. So I like both of those guys. I like Yuli, and you're getting him at a nice price. And then we get a little Phillies upside with Rhys Hoskins with Brandon Marsh in there. So you could move some of those pieces around. Like if you didn't use Bregman in the captain spot, that would save a little bit of money. Or let's see what happens if we spend a little bit more money in the captain spot. Let's go move Tucker up to the captain. Leaves 87. So we could go right back to Bregman down here. Oh, no, that's 88. You go to Pena. We go to a different Phillies bat. Let's stick Pena in there. So if it's Pena, it's 1 in 57,000. Leaves 300 on the board. So there's different ways to put it together, but you can get it with Tucker in there. You could equally get it with Alvarez in there. So with hitters, there's just definitely better, easier ways to build these things. That's the angle that I would try and take. If we want to use super low owns like a Bryce Harper there, we could have used Pena there, but we've got 78. So we've got Harper, Hoskins, Marsh, and 78 to spend. So you could say for Muto, if you wanted to load up on Phillies, go against Verlander, 1 in 70,000 here. That's a decent little lineup. You've got 3 of the star hitters from the Phillies, plus their 9-hitter wraparound guy. You're still using Gurriel and Levis Diaz from the Astros side of things. I don't dislike this one. So a lot of different ways to go with it. It's a dynamic board. It's definitely easier. As you can see, I don't really have to think quite as much about putting the hitters together. It just kind of comes together a lot more easily, where if you make the pitcher decision in either the captain or the util spot, you're just immediately crushed down to the bottom of these salary choices, and you're going along with everybody. Like, that's where everybody's going to have to go for salary savings. So those guys are going to be, those combinations are just going to be very highly owned and very likely to be duplicated. Even if you see like a 1 in 22,000 here, you've got to just think that these are the only ways that 66% of the field that's going to be using Verlander in one of those two roles is going to be using those same combinations of hitters that just can't get away from it, or they're going to be using flawed plays from like the bullpen and stuff. So it's an interesting slate. I would say let's try and get away from the Verlander shares. I would probably not use Syndergaard. I would try and win this one with bats. I think that's the much more likely way to go. Unlikely that the Phils are going to get no hit twice in a row in the World Series. We'll leave on that note. I appreciate everybody hanging out. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe, give me a little love. Make sure you're going over to BetMGM, checking out the risk-free first bet up to $1,000 plus 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum if you use the link in the description below. With that, my name is Terry McBride. This was fun. It's been a great baseball season. That's what I had to do. I knew there was something at the end that I wanted to do. It's been a blast providing content, hanging out with everybody, answering questions all season long for baseball this year. I had a great season. Hopefully you did too. I'm going to be punching out, like I said, and going on vacation. So I'll miss the last 2 games of the World Series if there are 2 more. But absolutely a great time hanging out with everybody. I look forward to doing more content all through basketball season and everything. But baseball is just my favorite. And I did so much for it this season with everybody. So it's been a fun time. Been my pleasure hanging out with all you guys. I really appreciate it. And with that, thank you very much and good luck tonight.